Aloha mai kako. Warm greetings to all of you from Washington, D.C. Mahalo, thank you to Superintendent Birch and the National Park Service for adding this important exhibit to your visitor center. My dad grew up in the hills above Pearl Harbor, and as a 12-year-old, he witnessed from afar that fateful December 7th morning. He later served combat tours in Korea and Vietnam, and never forgot his comrades in arms who did not return home. These are who this exhibit honors through a snapshot of DPA's extensive work in researching, recovering, and identifying Americans still missing from our nation's past wars. In doing so, we fulfill a promise to those who made the supreme sacrifice, and we provide long-sought answers to their waiting families. Today's unveiling represents DPA's unique relationship with the Valor in the Pacific Memorial. Our scientists are actively and successfully identifying these sailors and Marines from the sunken USS Oklahoma, USS California, and USS West Virginia, but who were unable to be identified in the war's aftermath. To date, DPA has identified 313 of the 388 unknowns from the USS Oklahoma. We also continue to preserve the stories of the war in the Pacific theater through the recovery, identification, and repatriation of MIAs from storied battles such as Guadalcanal, Buna, Tarawa, and Saipan. Indeed, we are privileged to collaborate and partner with the National Park Service. Stories of steadfast service and unparalleled heroism, which are featured here at the memorial, are the same stories DPAA endeavors to complete through our work. To learn more, you can visit the DPAA website as well as our Facebook page. And to give you a sense of what we do and how we do it, here's a short video we would like to share with you. It will be followed by the exhibit unveiling, which DPA's Deputy Director, Rear Admiral Banaji, will assist. As always, may God bless our great nation.
We write no last chapters. We close no books. We put away no final memories. An end to America's involvement in Vietnam cannot come before we have achieved the fullest possible accounting of those missing in action.
Why keep searching? The answer is simple. You never leave a fallen American behind. The mission of the Defense POW MIA Accounting Agency, or DPAA, is to provide the fullest possible accounting for our missing personnel to their families and their nation. Strategically located in Arlington, Virginia, with major facilities at Joint Base Pearl Harbor, Hickam, Hawaii, and Offutt Air Force Base, Nebraska, the more than 600-person newly established defense agency is jointly manned by soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines, and Department of Defense civilians with specialized skills. Researching, recovering, identifying, and ultimately returning an individual to their family begins with analysis and investigation. The DPAA experts begin the search by studying all known information regarding the circumstances of each loss. Historians and analysts gather information from U.S. veterans, foreign witnesses, archival records, and other sources. They then create a case file for each unaccounted for American. This file may include historical records, official correspondence, maps, photographs, daily activity logs, and medical and personnel records of the missing person. These files are continually updated until an identification is made.
Once the research has been done here, and we get the command's approval, we send out small teams. It could be up to 2 people, it could be a 10-person team, conducting interviews at a villager's house, at a district office, or in a combination of going to the site first and then conducting the interviews on site.
Once all available information is analyzed, a decision can be made to disinter individuals buried as unknown or conduct field investigations. During a typical investigation mission, personnel interview potential witnesses, conduct on-site reconnaissance, and survey terrain for safety and logistical concerns. Teams also try to generate new leads that may result in future recoveries. The main goal of the investigation is to obtain enough information to correlate or connect a particular site with one or more missing Americans. If enough on-site evidence is found, the site will be recommended for recovery and excavation. Recovery sites range in size from a few square meters, such as in individual burials, to areas larger than football fields for aircraft crashes. DPAA may hire as many as 100 local workers to help with the excavation process.
This job has so many benefits. For me personally, it's an opportunity to serve the country, but also our fighting forces and kind of contribute to that as well. Professionally, it's just an incredible challenge to get to work in all the countries where we work, to travel to these amazing sites, to work with the local villagers and local officials, and just have the opportunity to give somebody some answers after decades of waiting to know what happened to their loved one, and maybe just wrestling with the grief that lack of information and lack of answers brings. We have the chance to resolve that for them, and that's just an incredible opportunity.
Investigative and recovery missions in search of missing Americans take DPAA personnel to distant, remote, and often dangerous locations all over the globe. Rice paddies in Southeast Asia, areas on the Korean Peninsula, 16,000-foot mountaintops in the Himalayas, and underwater sites off the coast of Papua New Guinea. And we still continue to search the battlefields of World War II throughout Europe. After a successful recovery, all evidence is then transported to the DPAA laboratories. Once they've arrived in the lab, the painstaking process of identification begins. This is the final step of the mission, leading to the return of an individual. In many of the cases, an important step in the identification process is DNA analysis, which is accomplished by cutting a bone sample that is sent to the Armed Forces DNA Identification Laboratory. One of the challenges DPAA faces today is the lack of reference samples from family members of those still unaccounted for. Any person who is a relative of an unaccounted for American is encouraged to contact their service casualty office to ensure there is a DNA reference sample on file for that service member. DPAA makes an identification when all available evidence, remains, artifacts, and historical documents point to the same person. The ID process can take anywhere from a few months to several years to complete. Any unresolved cases are kept open with the hope that new evidence will be found, or new technologies will be developed to make a future identification possible. Once an American has been identified, their remains are returned to their family through their respective service casualty office. They are returned home with full military honors and given the respect they earned through their service and sacrifice for their country.
Oh, as a family member, this agency, to me, is doing phenomenal work, and in a very personal way, because when somebody loses somebody like my father, and you really don't know what the story is for 70 years, and then you find an agency that knows about him and keeps his memory alive, keeps the mission alive to try to find him. It's very meaningful in a very personal way, because it means you're not just doing this yourself alone. You have a whole body of people who are concerned about finding your dad and bringing him home.
That says something about how we honor our dead, particularly those who have served this nation. I'm very grateful to all of the DPAA and related agencies, and the military in general, as they've pursued this in our government. and for our citizens, because they think it's an important enough mission to continue. And the way we value life, and very few nations, I don't think any other nation to this degree does this.
Which, makes me proud to be an American.
I just wanted to yell openly to everybody out there, he's home, he's home. I couldn't believe it. And when I went up and touched his name, I thought, you're home, you're home. It's unbelievable. I'm glad I live in the United States of America and that we have this attitude. Leave no man behind. We're so fortunate. I want you to know, and I know from my own experience, that if something's happened to you, we will be looking for you.
The men and women of the Defense POW MIA Accounting Agency are united in their effort to recover and return as many of our missing personnel as possible. One more patriot return, one more family that now has answers. One more step in fulfilling our nation's promise.
Hello and welcome to the virtual unveiling of the Defense POW MIA Accounting Agency exhibit at the Pearl Harbor National Memorial. We hope you enjoyed the previous video and learned more about the hard work and dedication of the DPAA. We are happy to be able to share this momentous occasion and partnership with you and all who are watching. Today's unveiling will consist of speeches from Scott Birch, who is the superintendent of Pearl Harbor National Memorial, affiliated with the National Park Service, and Rear Admiral Banaji, DPAA's Deputy Director of Operations, followed by the official unveiling and untying of the Miley Lake. Superintendent Birch grew up in Hawaii, and as a Navy dependent, he attended the University of Hawaii for his graduate work. His career has spanned from nonprofit to commercial efforts, and finally to the National Park Service, where his mission has remained the same: natural resource protection. He previously served as superintendent of the National Park of American Samoa. Mr. Birch.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. Aloha kako. Hello, everyone. I'm honored to represent the National Park Service today and welcome you to Pearl Harbor National Memorial. Welcome and thank you all for joining us. Almost 80 years ago, the attack on the island of Oahu brought the United States into World War II. The diverse and complex impacts of World War II on the people of the Pacific shaped and transformed lives in ways we still see today. Countless people around the world sacrificed everything to protect their homelands and their way of life. Even today, in the face of a global pandemic, we can all be humbled by the scale of sacrifices made during World War II. Pearl Harbor National Memorial's mission: to preserve, interpret, and commemorate the history of World War II in the Pacific, from the events leading to the December 7th, 1941 attack on Oahu to peace and reconciliation, relies on many partners working together. The great work that the Defense POW MIA Accounting Agency does for so many that made that ultimate sacrifice is a most noble pursuit, and we at the National Park Service are honored to partner with DPAA to help share the stories of those we lost. The war in the Pacific challenged the resolve, ingenuity, and moral compass of every citizen and every soldier. The events of the war deeply changed the world socially, geopolitically, environmentally, and militarily forever. The museum collections we curate at Pearl Harbor National Memorial serve as tangible reminders that help us remember and relate to those times and to those people. The memorials we preserve and protect here, the USS Arizona Memorial, the USS Oklahoma Memorial, the USS Utah Memorial, constitute places of remembrance and contemplation of the nature of war, and they honor the sacrifices of those who lost their lives during the war. The stories of the war in the Pacific that we share through our exhibits and our programs bring those memories to life. Through partnerships, the United States government established those memorials to help us all remember those lost, to remember the challenges, but also the growth and healing our world has enjoyed through reconciliation and forgiveness. And most importantly, to remember the sacrifices made and the lives lost. Through this new exhibit, DPAA reminds us why we should never forget and educates us on what is being done to help us preserve that memory. Working with empathy, DPAA provides the fullest possible accounting for our missing personnel, to their families, and to our nation. The exhibit that we are unveiling today represents a collaboration between the National Park Service and the Defense POW MIA Accounting Agency. But the lion's share of the credit goes to our great partner, DPAA. Today, we proudly unveil this new exhibit honoring the mission of DPAA. Thank you, DPAA, for all you do and all you've done to help the Park Service share this important story.
Rear Admiral Banaji is a 1986 graduate of the University of Washington with a Bachelor of Science degree in Civil Engineering and was commissioned as an ensign in May of 1987 after completion of the Officer Candidate School. Banaji reported to the Defense Prisoner of War Missing in Action Accounting Agency in September of 2019. He is privileged to be appointed as the Honorary Chief Petty Officer and recipient of the Captain Gillis Award for Outstanding Service and Leadership. He now serves as the Deputy Director of Operations for the DPAA. Welcome, Admiral Banaji.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. Aloha, ladies and gentlemen. It is my honor to participate in today's unveiling of a Defense POW MIA Accounting Agency's exhibit case so prominently displayed here at the Pearl Harbor National Memorial Visitor Center. The mission of DPAA is to provide the fullest possible accounting of those missing in action from our nation's past conflicts to their families and the nation. Every unaccounted for U.S. service member, DoD civilian, and contractor is entitled to one certainty, that he or she will not be forgotten. The men and women of DPAA are committed to honor their sacrifice. This exhibit will introduce the millions and millions of visitors that come to the memorial each year to learn about our noble mission, a mission where melding of science and history enables our team to fulfill our nation's promise. When you visit, please take a moment to view the rolling photo essay. Also look closely at the artifacts which tell the story of those who served so bravely in World War II. This includes materials recovered from the Tarawa in the Central Pacific Ocean and a sailor's wristwatch recovered from the USS Oklahoma. Our display also includes a QR code which allow you to go to our DPA website and better know about our mission. And as our director, Mr. Kelly McCaig, stated in his remarks, our team is working diligently to recover, identify, and repatriate those lost during the war in the Pacific Theater. We also conduct missions around the globe to account for over 81,000 service members missing from World War II and other conflicts. We're privileged to conduct these missions with the assistance and cooperation from 46 host countries. In closing, on behalf of the proud men and women of DPAA, it is my sincere thanks to the National Park Service for this collaboration and the ability to share our story of our sacred obligation to ensure these men and women who pay the ultimate sacrifice are not forgotten. Thank you.
We'll now move into the attack gallery at the Pearl Harbor Visitor Center Museum, where Superintendent Burge and Admiral Banaji will officially unveil the exhibit and untie the traditional Miley Lei. Thank you for attending this virtual unveiling. We hope that in the near future you will visit us here at the Pearl Harbor National Memorial.